Very good morning to all the participants and the guests of today's session. At Key Kids, we have always focused on nurturing happy and responsible children. And we understand being happy means being healthy. And we have always put a lot of effort in keeping our environment, our premise healthy and hygienic for the children. Parents have been a strong support to us throughout in our effort to provide this environment to children with their trust. In the present times of Corona, anxious, baffled, confused. These are the new ABCs, and as parents of young children, this is all the more manifested because the young children have an urge to touch surface, to put things in the mouth. The concept of social distancing is not what they have learned till now, and these are their natural urges. So how to keep the children safe considering this urge of the children? We have our health partner HEALFA today to address the queries and put we as caretakers and as parents give some tips, some guidance on how we can keep the children safe in the present times and in the days and months which will now follow. So we have with us today eminent doctors, Dr. J.V. Rao and Dr. Vijay Shekhar, who will address our queries around keeping our children safe in the present times at home and in the schools when they join back. We will be passing on queries to the doctors. At the end of the session, parents also can ask a question if the queries are still unanswered, and they will be more than willing to answer that. I thank them for joining today and taking out their time from their busy routine to address and connect with Key Kids parents and partnering to keep our children safe and help us do that. So I pass it on to Mr. Raj, who is the CFO of HEALFA, to introduce the eminent doctors to our participants of Key Kids. Raj, over to you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen and children. These are difficult times, and all of us are, as Kirti said, anxious, baffled, and confused indeed. This HEALFA as a company has been looking after the aspects of health in schools. But what we find ourselves is our helplessness, or rather new ways of taking care of school children's health. So we thought that it's our responsibility to connect with you and see how we can help you to tide over this crisis. Our partners, Bloom Hospital, Dr. Vijay Shekhar, Dr. J.V. Rao, have been very kind enough, and they agreed to participate in this webinar today. And I would like to introduce them. Dr. J.V. Rao is an eminent personality in the Indian medical scenario. He's a very senior person who has been the HOD of pediatrics in government setup and has published articles and papers, done work in pediatrics. And today he is working in the capacity of a chief medical officer in Bloom Hospitals. He is an eminent pediatrician and neonatologist. Dr. Vijay Shekhar is a pediatrician, with about more than 2 decades of experience. He is a practitioner of repute, and he believes in preventive care and is an evangelist of preventive care. So they will be the right people in these times to answer your questions. I pass it back to Kirti to take the session forward.
Thank you, Raj. See, we will move with, we have few queries which as parents we have discussed and taken, and we as caretakers who are managing children, especially the young age group, in our schools and daycares from morning till evening. We as the, we have the worry that how we should be taking care of them in these times and once we open up. So I have few queries. One is like, doctor, if you can address what steps parents can take now in the present situation to keep children, especially in this younger age group, safe. So what are the steps? We know like the social distancing, we know wearing the mask and all. But as I already told, we are catering to a younger age group for whom they have that urge of being together. They have that urge of putting things in their mouth, touching the surface is a very normal for them. How we can as parents minimize their risk and maximize their safety?
Is the voice clear with our? Am I audible?
No, you will have to, I think, remove the mask for the session.
I have already removed. Right.
Yeah, thank you.
The mask is not there now.
Yes, now we can, now it's better. We can hear.
Yeah. As you rightly said, Kirti, that the children are, they have a natural urge to keep their hands over the surfaces, keep their hands over the face, nose, and all kinds of things. It's also a fact that given a proper kind of environment and proper kind of training, or rather say, motivate them, they are also trainable, and we should be able to inculcate those habits which in the long run will anyway useful to them, not only in the corona environment, subsequently also. But as you rightly said, distancing part is very difficult thing. Children have tend to congregate and tend to become physically close to each other. These are the things which are difficult, but they are ultimately required also. And apart from that, and using usage of a mask for a child is also a difficult proposition, because they tend to keep the mask, touch everything, and then keep these hands on the surface also. But these things, we have to train them. It takes some time, but it is ultimately a must that these children are being trained in these necessary basic precautions to prevent. While we have said that kids are very, very prone to being together, they're also the most disciplined lot when it comes to teachers putting it across to them and making them understand. They're also very keen to follow the orders, especially if the reward system kicks in. Like a couple of stars for kids who have not touched their face, smiley for kids who have not hugged each other. I think these kind of things will go a long way in the kindergarten setup. The older children will probably need a different kind of approach, but this being key kids, I think this will help. The next thing that I would like to say to the parents regarding the masks. Masks are useful if they are kept clean, they are not touched repeatedly. Because if you touch your mask with dirty hands and keep it on, it is likely that you are increasing the chance of inhaling the dirty things that you have put on your mask through your hands. Because it would be difficult for a child not to touch the mask, what is the way around? As parents, probably we should think of changing the mask every class or every hour. Give a set of masks, all washed, all reusable. The first period, second period, third period, fourth period, or whatever, the masks are changed. So then the chances of them inhaling from a dirty mask have come down dramatically. That we have to figure out ways and means of getting our things done with kids. One rule will not fit. This is an idea of a pediatrician who's been handling kids for a while. But of course, as a teacher, Kirti will have a different idea, might work better. Many parents might give me better ideas. So let's all sit down, put our heads together. What is the ultimate goal? That they wear a mask so that they don't sneeze on to people, they don't carry the droplets. This mask should be clean, and to keep it clean, you should not be touching it. If it is not to be touched, yes, a reward system might work. It will work to an extent. So what is an alternative? Change the mask for every period. Does it sound good? If it does, let's do it. Over to you.
Yeah. No.
Another important thing what I just want to tell you, if you want me to rate the 3 most important preventive aspects, first I will say hand wash and hand hygiene. The second, of course, usage of mask, cough etiquette, and sneezing etiquette. Third will be a social distancing. These, if you want to rate the 3 most important aspects of preventive care for children, probably as well as adults also. First is hand wash, hand hygiene. Second is proper usage of mask, I will say. Proper usage of mask. And 3 is social distancing.
Okay. Yeah, no, that makes sense, Doctor. Thank you. Like another thing we have is now we are hearing the lockdown getting relaxed, and slowly we will go back to the normal scenario. It might not be the same as we have come from. But yes, what restrictions we are into, what restrictions we are putting children into, they are going to get relaxed. So as parents, should we also relax? Can I take my child out? And if I'm stepping out or allowing my child out, what are the factors I should be alert to or I should consider? Because again, looking at the duration children have been locked inside, and getting given an opportunity, they will definitely rush. So what as parents we need to take care when we also go into that relaxation mode and allow our child to step out?
Kirti, I think there is one thing which I just want to mention. There is no relaxation here. I think we cannot afford to relax on any of these important steps, prevention as well as being alert for a few more months, maybe a year or so. We really don't know. Because we have been thinking that the virus is not, virus cannot withstand the high temperatures which we see in the southern part of India, or most parts of India. But that turned out to be untrue. Because now what we are seeing is, in spite of the temperature rise, in spite of the hot environment temperatures picking up, the number of increased cases remains to be same, almost same. So what's more important thing is, in the post-lockdown period, really it is very difficult to imagine a scenario where we can insist or we can implement social distancing in such a highly dense populated cities and environments like ours. Like for example, I think in my opinion, schools maybe would be one of the last things to open up, because it's impossible for a school environment to create a kind of social distancing what we have been talking about, 3 feet, even 6 feet also. Is it possible? It's very difficult. I would definitely say it's almost impossible. So in that context, imagining a scenario where schools are opening up and then the live classes are maybe the physical kind of lecturing is going on, classes is very difficult to implement. Have been difficult to imagine also. And when we take children outside, I think as of now, till the lockdown restrictions are removed, I think taking children out is very risky. And maybe in the apartment complexes, in the same environment, maybe walking here and there, and no physical contact activities like playing shuttle, playing the kind of games where there is no physical interaction between the kids is perhaps even that too with all the usual regular precautions. Vijay?
Let's, for the parents, go from what facts we have and what are the known things, and then go to conjecture. What are the facts? China, Wuhan had a lockdown which lasted 2.5 months. Right? They had cases to the tune of 70,000-80,000. They had deaths which were 4,000. Put aside the fact that these could be data which are not absolutely accurate. Maybe they are underreported data. But let's put that aside. The fact is, there's a great disproportion between the number of cases that they have reported and the deaths they have reported. If we assume that the reporting of deaths and the cases have all been tamped down, by let's say 10 times less or whatever is less, they would have probably done both of them together. How come their deaths are low? How come not lockdown? The idea is simple. They took a hit for their economy, their education, their physical health, their mental health, and implemented a lockdown which is absolutely rigid, possible in a dictatorial environment. May not be possible in a democratic country like ours. Now, the children are the most prone to democracy. They have their rights, and I don't think we can take them away easily. That is a fact. Now, let's come to what has happened. How can we get over it? How long has our lockdown been? It's been a month and a couple of days more. How long will it last further? Another 2 weeks. What was the lockdown in Wuhan? 2.5 months. Is it likely that the schools will be given a go-ahead right now? Unlikely in the present scenario. Mid-July seems like a reasonable expectation. Now, this is as part of the school is concerned. Now, regarding what do you do once the lockdown is over? Do you have the energy, ability, and the time to go back to your work and still monitor your child? That is the issue. Now, can you really monitor the child? If the grandparents are taking care, do you really expect them to run and hold them and not mingle with other kids? It's a pretty difficult scenario. So let's, in our mind, be very clear. The government has lifted a lockdown for purely economic reasons because it has to continue to run a country. We have to be a part of it because we also have to get our economies running. Otherwise, how will we survive? So that part is clear. But that doesn't, by any stretch of imagination, mean that everybody can mingle. Now, what are the situations where the kids will mingle in a non-school environment? There are 2 or 3 things. Birthday parties, playground, and when they all come together for an evening play. Now, if you are living in an apartment complex, can we say the first floor comes into play at this time, the second floor comes into play at this time, the third floor comes into play at this time, the fourth floor does it at this time? Is it possible? Maybe you allot times so that the play area is not crowded. Now, what are the games you would like to encourage? Like Sir has said, table tennis, shuttle. But keep in mind, there was a clear study from Netherlands which said that when you are exercising, your droplets actually fall 4 meters, 10 meters, depending on the level of activity. So a mask is a must. Don't by any stretch of imagination think that you can play and not have a mask. But these games would be great. Running would be great. Cycling would be great, but with masks on. These are the things that can be done, and probably you should have a staggered playground time in your apartment complex. That's one. The second thing, if the kids are not going to get together, how do we meet their emotional needs? That is a problem. So the parents have to take time out, and the family has to have a structure where they are using so much of time with the kids, doing things which probably now are forward. Storytelling, craft together, cooking together, exercising together. These are the kind of things where your child is likely to connect with you. But it should be our idea of what is the game. The game should be theirs. You should join in. The craft should be theirs and you should be joining in. Screen time, can you really avoid it? I'm very, very skeptical about it. I would suggest a screen time of 2 hours for the family. Why only 2 hours? Because if it's more screen time, you are actually spoiling all the gains that you have made over the last couple of years by cutting down the screen time. And most parents now are feeling helpless that no, screen time is something we can't avoid now with the lockdown. But mind you, someday this lockdown is going to end. And then how are you going to get them back? So you should have the discipline of only 2 hours screen time. And what screen time should it be? Should it be my news that I'm very interested in? Or should it be what the child wants to see? So those are the kind of things that we all have to think about and go about. Malls, out of the question. Cinema halls, out of the question. Gatherings, functions, out of the question. Schools, maybe not in picture right now, but play areas, definitely the moment the lockdown is over, the kids will want to go. A staggered time, you have 2 weeks for your meetings in the apartment complexes to get this through. Okay, this flat, this hour, those kind of things. Think about it. Let me just make you think about it.
Kirti, just want to add something after Dr. J.V. Rao and Vijay have voiced their insights. When people say that they want to go, most of us in the urban areas live in apartments and gated communities. The biggest risk, the biggest danger of an apartment is the lift. Lift will be the biggest concern for you. So it may not be the park even. If we can sanitize the lift or have a mechanism, there are some small gadgets, keep a sponge piece and a small toothpicks and press the keys of the lift only with that. And put a dustbin and throw that toothpick in the dustbin. So even in the apartment complex, the swing and seesaw and the playpen area, sanitizing will become very, very important. Just want to leave a passing thought. Over to you, Katie.
Already Dr. Vijay and you have touched upon for schools, like yes, we are also seeing that we might be the last ones to open. But yes, one is staggered playtime, which normally most of the schools have, and sanitizing regularly. Anything other than that specific which you would like we as Key Kids and other schools who will be listening to this to take care once we are ready to take children back, so that we maximize their safety and minimize their risk at our premise?
I would like to weigh in here.
Yeah.
Classes outside, not inside. Is it a possibility?
Okay.
Number 2, could we use our corridors as classes instead of the rooms themselves to improve on social distancing? Could we have staggered coming in? When do the kids all mingle together? School start, school end time. The bell rings and everybody is together. So can we have them entering the school in a staggered way? Can we have them leaving the school in a staggered way? Can we have fewer number of sessions? Make some sessions on the computer remote, some sessions at school, so that you can have that gap You can divide a class into two. And you know, instead of the 6 periods that they will have only 3 in the school and half the number of students. And then the other part is getting done in a remote way. So all these are probably things that techies like Raj, teachers like Kirti will probably definitely imagine, because we have to have a new normal. And Jugaad is what India lives by. So I think parents will weigh in, give their 2 cents, teachers will do it, and ultimately we'll come to a much better solution than most Western countries will come to. It's just that we have to be unafraid to put out our ideas, see how it works out, see how it fits in, and see that it benefits, number 1, the kids, number 2, the parents, number 3, it is not too harsh on the schools and teachers, number 4, education still goes on. All this has to happen, and all of us have to think about the others. Now, if the government is going to say, okay, 1 student per bench, great idea here, but how does a school survive? They've already said you can't increase the fee. So, if you're teaching only 1/3 of the students, how will a school survive? Are you saying that the teachers should also be 1/3? Are you saying that it just doesn't work out?
See, we also have now questions pouring in from parents. But before I move to that, my last question I have is, see, many of the schools nowadays have AC rooms, AC buses, wall-to-wall carpets. So what changes those schools need to do, or we need to do if we have that, or how it can impact the children's health when we start taking them back?
Kirti, I don't think the air-conditioned environment in the classrooms can be recommended. The windows have to be open, even if the temperatures are high, maybe somewhat difficult to manage, difficult to bear with. Still, I don't think your air-conditioned buses, air-conditioned classrooms are okay. Actually, today I was just going through some information that even for domestic use also, the temperature which has to be set for the AC should be anything not less than 24 degrees centigrade to 30 degrees centigrade, and the relative humidity being between 40 and 70% or something like that. So there are recommendations coming in that obviously means that lower temperatures are not recommended. So for comfort sake, we are keeping it 18, 19, 20, no. And in a school environment, in a school bus, I don't think in the present scenario, as far as my knowledge or information is concerned, I can recommend air-conditioned classrooms. Anything to add?
Absolutely, sir.
Yeah.
Air conditioning, I think, has to go, and even the buses, their windows have to be open. You can only have 1 or 2 kids per seat. That has to be clean. People have to think about how to go about it. And the corridor should be an extension of the class, so that everything is open. The kids have come onto the corridor, so the social distancing is possible. Some classes are taking place in the shared hall. Some classes are taking place in the assembly area. Some classes are taking place in the playground under the tree. I think we have to go to all those things. It has to happen.
Yeah.
Has to happen.
Thank you, Doctor. Now I will share the questions which parents are giving. One question which has come from many parents, which I also had, like what are the diet or the food habits we need to focus on to increase immunity of children in these times? Whether it is fine to continue giving them egg or non-veg, or what are the things parents have to take care regarding the diet of the children now also and going forward to enhance their immunity?
Literally, as far as food is concerned, fortunately, in the present scenario where you don't have Swiggy and Zomato, the delivery of pizzas, burgers, and all kinds of fast food, whatever you call it, fast foods are naturally restricted and it is good for all of us. It is important for all of us to adults, even and also the kids, that we should take a lot of fresh vegetables, fruits, drink lots of water also, hydrate ourselves very well. And as of now, there is, scientifically speaking, there is no strict negative advisory regarding the eating of non-vegetarian food, provided it has been preserved well, or rather say cooked well, and served warm and hot. And another important thing is, like because less than activity and all that, and more time for all of us to sit together and eat. Let us also be cautious about even adults, not only kids, whether we are gaining weight in this scenario of more eating and no work. That's another important part we need to look into. And so that the regular workout, even in our houses, a regular time for exercise, yoga, and a kind of meditation, twice a day, at least half an hour morning, half an hour evening. Together, probably will help a long way in ensuring good health now and tomorrow. Yeah.
There's been no change in the guidance about healthy food. There's been no change. It's been the constant. Now, what we have done is to integrate what is happening all around into our lifestyle. Pizza was never a food that I knew about as a kid. But now, it's a reality. Is it a bad food? It is a bad food if there's only cheese and carbs. Now, where are the veggies? Where is the protein? Now, what we have done is we have taken a good Italian food which were stable. You have taken a part of it. You have removed the meat of the stomach. You have removed the huge the pizza part. Now you have taken the carb and your cheese and butter part. You just pushed aside. You didn't take the huge amounts that Italians eat of salads. Huge salads, guacamole, whatever they call it. You're not eating that. You want to eat only this part of it. Now, how can that be right? If you want to eat Indian food, great. If you just take the ghee part of it and not take the rest of it, how can it be right? You have to look at a custom, food habit of a culture in its totality. Why it has come to that? Why are we eating like an American eats big part of meat and this? Look at the amount of meat that they're eating. Indians, a lot of vegetables. Dals are a part of it. Why is dal a part of it? Because you are not so much of a non-vegetarian eater. Dal has to be a part of it. All these cultures, what you cannot do is take a bit of Mexican, take a bit of Italian, take a bit of American. You have to stick to the entirety so that it is balanced. That is one way of looking at it. The other part, what was wrong with being a couch potato? You're sitting, activity is happening on TV, and you're eating because you have got nothing else to do. Now, if that happens to a family, their health will be ruined in the next 3 months. So what you have to do, like a disciplined person, somebody in the family has to set it up. You have to have a schedule. Wake up at this time. Have an exercise session. The entire family does it. Breakfast together. No TV then. Let the breakfast be healthy. A portion of fruit at 10 a.m. 12 noon lunch. Generous salad. Generous amount of dals and vegetables. The kids help in cooking. The kids help in cooking. Everybody helps out. They've learned some skills for tomorrow. It will be useful. Because they have been a part of that cooking and it's not a chore. They might be interested in eating it as well. That has happened. A noon siesta, a good old habit of half an hour, 1 hour, lying down in the afternoon. You wake up, have a small chat, go for a little exercise, have a cup of tea or milk or whatever the kids are having. then have a session of some education, assemble for dinner. You know, you should have a system, and it should be a kind of fixed system where the content of that can vary. The breakfast can vary. The breakfast can be varied, but the breakfast time should be fixed. Just because it's a lockdown, you can't have your breakfast at 11. You can't have your dinner at 1 a.m. in the night. Those are the things to stay away from. What happens is, this is a prolonged holiday, and all teachers, all parents, everybody knows how difficult it is to send a child back to school. Back to school is such a difficult ordeal for every parent, every teacher. Kids who are very well adjusted, again you have to go through that. Now with this big break, we'll all have a very tough time. We'll have a very tough time. So the best thing is to have a schedule. Go back to the things that you would have liked to do. I would have loved to have an exercise session with my family every morning. Maybe in 2-3 months, by the time this lockdown, everything is over, we'll get into a habit of it. We'll have a wonderful habit for life. That is how we have to look at it. Otherwise, I think obesity will increase dramatically. And then getting that weight out of kids won't be easy. It definitely will not. Should you allow kids to cook? Definitely. Make it safe and let them cook. Let them understand what mommy goes through. Like everybody, you know, give a helping hand. At home, we have a rule. Your plate and 2+ dishes. That's your responsibility. So that the entire load doesn't come on to one person. Great idea. Okay, I do the vegetables today. You are washing them today. You are putting up the plates today. All these would be wonderful habits to go ahead with. Kirti, your part.
Yeah, that's really good. Like one parent has, and many parents might be facing this concern because children are young and their vaccination schedule has gone for a toss. So many parents are writing that if they have missed the vaccination schedule, should they wait for the situation to normalize, or they should take the child to the hospital to get it done? Is it safe to go? Especially the vaccines like thyroid booster or MMR, varicella vaccine and all. So they want to know that.
Regarding vaccination, the IAP has come out with a clear directive. Yes, vaccinations will get postponed. There will be a downside to it. What are the vaccines that I as a pediatrician would give based on the Indian Academy of Pediatrics recommendations? The vaccines which cannot be postponed. At birth, BCG or oral polio, hepatitis B, they cannot be postponed. You are born in a hospital, you take it. That's done. The first dose of your pentavalent vaccines, the hexavalent vaccines, you cannot miss the first 2-month schedule or 1.5 month. Why? Because you have not taken it at all. You need your immunity. So we will give that. Vaccines like the 3rd dose of rotavirus cannot be postponed beyond 8 months. So that would be a priority. Rabies vaccine, can it be postponed? Absolutely no. Rabies vaccine has to be given by a schedule. So there are some vaccines which will not be postponed and will be done. Period. Regarding the other vaccines, now measles vaccine, should it be a on-9 months thing? Ideally it should. But what is allowed for us till 1 year? Your varicella and MMR vaccine, 15 months. No, it's 15 months to 18 months. So you got a 3-month leeway. Your 1.5 year booster, 18 months to 24 months. You got a leeway. Your typhoid vaccine, not a big deal. You're not eating out. You will not get typhoid now. It's unlikely. So it can be postponed. Hepatitis A vaccine, no great shakes. You're not eating out. Will its efficacy become 0? No, it will not. It will become 98% instead of 100. That is all it will be. You should not take the risk of going in and taking it. So you should differentiate between what are important and what are not. What are a must do and what are not. And then the vaccination is also, how do you schedule it? You schedule at a time, stick to your schedule. What I plan to do as a doctor the moment the lockdown is over, I have asked 5 of you to come in this hour. You come in this hour, you get it done and go away. If you come beyond the hour that we have asked you to come in, please take an appointment tomorrow. Don't crowd the next hour. What do we commonly hear? Doctor, I get caught held up in the traffic. There's so many reasons why we get held up. As doctor, I know it better. I get held up so many times. So what's the point in blaming somebody for coming late? No, I'm not blaming. What I am saying is, how do I not crowd up my outpatient? How does your doctor not crowd up his outpatient where he is actually making it possible to transmit coronavirus? The best thing is 1 hour, in this 1 hour, 5 people. Physical distancing for 5 people, easy in an hour, not a big deal. But then you cannot go in the next hour. If that happens, reschedule. Keep your discussions to a minimum. Get your advice done on WhatsApp, on email, because advice can be given. The examination, the things that have to be seen are the things that you should concentrate on. Most of the time what happens in my practice, the actual examination takes around 5 to 8 minutes. But the discussion about the case, about the many things that the parents want guidance on, takes around 10 to 15 minutes. So that probably we can have a schedule on WhatsApp or answer your questions that way and cut down the exposure time in the clinic to a bare minimum of 5 to 10 minutes, 5 to 8 minutes. All this will help. Vaccinations have to be done. The projection of IAP is that especially our less fortunate part of the population, where they are depending on the government to give the vaccines, that can be a disaster in waiting unless big steps are taken to cover up the lapse of vaccinations. That's a disaster in making. And don't think that if a disaster happens to our less fortunate part of the population, it will not affect us. It does affect us because the chain of transmission, all of us know that word now. If measles starts happening in the poorer part of our population, it is bound to hurt you. So all of us probably have to put in that effort to make sure that everybody gets vaccinated for the must-do things. Right? Anything else?
As to just sum up what Dr. Vijay was talking about. So the government of India itself has recognized that the vaccination and immunization part of it is essential medical activity. Hence, proper precautions are taken. The vaccination and immunization sessions can go on. As Dr. Vijay was rightly suggesting, he has elaborated everything perfectly well. Vaccinations, the scheduled time, a given time only meant for the vaccination. Number 2, prioritizing vaccines and prioritizing age groups also. The younger age group vaccines are the most important things, and you need to go forward on those things. And putting together 2 vaccines together, giving those vaccines together at the same time, also will reduce the number of visits, and thereby the resources, the travel time, and the amount of tension a patient undergoes and the parent undergoes when they bring children to a healthcare setting. That they have always the fear of, is my child likely to contract an infection by coming after coming to the hospital? Is a big thing. So prioritizing vaccines, combining vaccines, and giving vaccines on schedule, giving a preference to the younger children, and non-priority vaccines which can be rescheduled. For example, booster doses. Booster doses can be postponed.
Okay.
Kirti,
Yeah. Thank you, doctor. Yeah,
Kirti, one point here is, whenever we go to the doctor or the hospital for these vaccinations, Dr. Vijay touched upon it, that we combine all our problems and go to the doctor and we want to finish it off. Like you are scheduling your online classes and offline classes because of social distancing. Today, it is allowed and it is legitimate that we do tele or digital consulting. So whatever are your other aspects are there, those you sort it out with the doctor digitally. Those are only which in needing physical contact and personal examination, that's the time. You don't want to spend more time in the clinic in the doctor's place. Go for a specific purpose, prepare, finish it off and come. And HEALFA, to that extent, we have given a platform. All of you have been HEALFA, parents and HEALFA children. You have an app. You can put your questions and ask the questions to the doctors, and the doctors will respond. Use this platform. You ask your doctor to use this, so you don't have to visit a clinic, visit a doctor, and increase your chance of risk of contaminating. And only take an appointment. Today, appointment making is also made it easy. So he will know all the history and everything right in your app. You store your things, they will know. So you don't have to tell them the stories about what happened and everything. Everything will be there. I would encourage all the parents to use that. And for all our customers, parents, students, and teachers, we have given. Everyone is anxious to know, do I have COVID? There is a COVID self-test available on the app. Just use it. We encourage you to use it. It is free. We have brought it for you. To alleviate the pain, we have brought it for you. Thank you, Kirti.
Yeah, thank you, Raj. Parents, we had the health checkup of children done in the school through HEALFA. So you got the health report also, the checkup report when the checkup was done last year. So you can download the HEALFA app and connect with the doctors to take it forward. Meanwhile, I will put the other question what a parent has shared. Doctor's parent wants to know that in young children, how we can differentiate between normal flu and COVID, and will it help if we give more citrus fruits or citrus things to child to build immunity during this time?
The citrus fruits, as you have been mentioning, that they have lots of vitamin C, and vitamin C has got a natural advantage of boosting the immunity and increasing our resistance to fight the organism. And it's always a good habit to eat, unless somebody is some children they have a cough and cold, they start eating citrus. Unless such a thing is there, citrus fruits are always good. And Kirti, if I'm correct, what you have been asking is about how to differentiate the normal cough and cold from COVID. Is it so?
Yes. In children, how parents can.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the problem with the coronavirus infections is many people who get the virus, adults, and more importantly, children, many of them are asymptomatic. And even if they have symptoms, many have very mild symptoms in the initial. That means there could be some cold, cough, and soreness in the throat, body ache, and adults are reported to lose their sense of smell and taste also. And so these like for example, in 100, for example, roughly we have 100 children who have got coronavirus. So let us say 80 to 81% of the children will be having symptoms which are very mild, cough, cold, minor sore throat and all that. And once a child develops features of pneumonia or the infection of the lung as it is, where the prominent manifestation will be difficulty in breathing. So those children cater to around say 13 to 14%. So we have finished 95, and then the remaining 5%, they are the children, they are the people who are getting critical illness. And many of them may require respiratory support, including maybe some children, some patients may require a ventilation also. So I would say that being the symptoms of normal flu and normal kind of flu and corona, being almost there is a lot of overlap is there, and you need to exercise a lot of caution. And if a child develops extreme fatigue or like feeling of weakness and increasing breathlessness over a short period of time, the child's respiratory rate or breathing rate has gone up significantly. And then more, that is the time when you need to really suspect whether my child need to be tested for corona. Vijay?
The tough part of the diagnosis is in the city that we are in, Hyderabad, 40 plus children have been admitted with COVID-19 in the COVID hospital, tertiary hospital. 38 of them are playing around in the wards. You're not able to stop them. No symptoms. Why did you diagnose them in the first place? Because they were contacts. That is how we diagnose them. Not because they had symptoms. One, there have been deaths in children, but the number has been very, very limited. Very, very few. For some reason, God has been kind. He has spared children and pregnant ladies who actually are at big risk in influenza pandemic. But this time they are being spared. For some reason, they are not becoming very sick or losing their life. Doesn't mean that they will not. The numbers are lesser. They are not especially prone. That is what it means. My worry is if these children are so asymptomatic, 38, 39 of them running around, tomorrow when the lockdown is lifted, how do you recognize these kids? They will be the people who will be spreading it around. They are the kids who will be spreading it around. That is the terrifying prospect. Now that is what we are worried about. How do we get across extensive testing? Is testing to the tune of 80 million or 1 billion possible in India? Probably we'll break our back by doing the testing. We'll break our economy by doing the testing. It cannot happen. It may not be feasible in our country. So probably we will learn along the way. Should we worry that our kids have coronavirus? There's a self-check, you do it. The self-check is pretty sensitive. It's reassuring for people who don't have the risk. It points you towards when you should go to a doctor. It points you towards the things that are important, like the respiratory rate, the breathlessness, the risk factors. I think you should periodically go through the COVID self-check. And if you find things which are going out of order, that is the time to meet your doctor. I think that will be the easy way. Morning COVID self-check here, evening COVID self-check here. If you find some symptoms are getting worse, you go to the doctor. But the flip side of it is, are we going to make you all paranoid about it? You have to think about that. You can't always, there are people who have washed hands so much that they have developed chemical injury to their hands. They have used so much of alcohol on their hands, they have hurt their hands. They have got chemical dermatitis. Now, you cannot carry it to that extent also. There has to be a balance struck. Children should not become paranoid. Parents should not become paranoid. But they definitely should be careful. Over to you, Kirti.
Yeah, thank you, doctor. One last question which parents have. See, with the schools opening, or how you suggested using more masks for each family member, parents want to know what is the best way to dispose the masks at home or clean the reusable masks at home.
Right. There are, for parents, two kinds of masks. One, the triple layer surgical mask that you are buying. If you buy that, I think some resources which frankly should be used in a hospital are being used up by you. It's not a great idea. The best idea is to have a cloth mask. Sure. This is the kind of mask.
Stitch it at home.
This is home stitched. How do I wear it? Here. And this is not an ornament. It has to be tied tight. Where is the chance that I will cough on somebody? Unlikely. So what have I done? I have prevented others from getting my droplets onto them. It has muffled my voice. It will make me uncomfortable, but in a couple of days, I will be comfortable. Now, if a kid is using this mask, he should not be touching this part, only this part. If adults like me are using it, I go home, put it in hot water and serve, or whatever detergent you are using, and then what do? I wash it thoroughly, keep it in hot water for a while, dry it in the sun, iron it, and then reuse it. For kids, I would say, have a mask for each period. Have a mask for the game time. The moment they come home, soak them, wash them, so dry them in the sun, iron them. Safe, easy to use. Suppose you are using a triple layer mask like this one. This you use for 3 to 4 hours, it becomes moist because of your breath. It's time to discard it in a safe way. In the hospital, we put it in something called a yellow bin, which is a biomedical based bin, not a general one.
Designated for that particular.
Right? Especially if somebody has the risk of respiratory infection or viral infection, the disposal becomes very, very important. Very important. Regarding the suits that you are seeing in the hospitals, in COVID hospitals, the PPE as it is called. My friend is a professor in Gandhi Medical College, which is a COVID tertiary center. If you put on that mask properly, it is near impossible to be comfortable and breathing. It requires medical training to be able to wear that PPE kit properly and stay in it for a couple of hours. In 4 hours, nearly entire clothes are soaked as if you have come out of a rain. Dripping. That is the amount of sweat that comes out. No air comes into that. So after a couple of hours, you start feeling dizzy in it. Because what you are breathing is your own carbon dioxide. Most of it. It is not easy. People might think, wow, what a wonderful dress. It keeps you safe. After 2 hours in it, it is a torture chamber. After 4 to 6 hours, it's near impossible to keep it on. And I don't think most people can wear masks properly. The N95 mask that many people I see around wearing around. The way it is to be used is it has to be airtight. Otherwise, why are you wasting a precious resource? You wear a N95 mask, it has to be airtight. You wear a triple layer mask, it has to be snugly fit. You wear a cloth mask, it should be snugly fit. It cannot be airtight. But the N95 mask has to be airtight. Otherwise, there's no point. Right? Over to you, KP.
So net the takeaway is use cloth mask. It is economical, but more than an economy, it is manageable in the house. Wash it, dry it, press it, use it again and again. Don't have to worry about disposing. And the mask to be disposed, you need a in-centering center and a medical management, waste management, which we don't have. So for all what you know, you will infect more people. The Bai and your servants carrying them and collecting them, you are making them sick. A large population if they don't dispose it. Don't do that.
And you know, like if everybody is wearing a mask, you are saving others from getting infected from you. If everybody takes that attitude, it's done. It's absolutely done.
Yeah. So thank you, Doctor. I would like now summarize the things, what we have discussed in this session and what we have learned from you. See, one, the parents, we know even if lockdown continues or lockdown is relaxed, Corona is not going to vanish away in thin air. We need to be mentally prepared, and we need to handle our young children keeping that in mind, that yes, these safety precautions, what we heard from the doctors, they have to be followed for a pretty long time, whether they are at home in the play area or whether they are in their schools. So that has to be carried forward for a pretty long duration. One is the mask, which we have seen the right use, a simple mask made at home. We can easily reuse it, wash it, and manage that. So we need to first take care of that mask. We have also seen that yes, the food habits need to be the fresh fruits, fresh vegetables, fresh food more, and lots of water or fluids for us and for children. We have lots spoken about and discussed about the schedule, the daily routine. We need to stick to it. No doubt, the Corona has given us the opportunity to connect, to be at leisure, to wake up when we want, to sleep when we want, to be in our night suits whole day. But the schedule is very, very important if we need to prepare our children for after Corona times. So to make that period easy for us, we need to work from now on, because it was very difficult. We put in a lot of effort jointly as parents and teachers to settle the young children in schools. And it is going to be doubly difficult now to resettle them. So we need to work on maintaining a schedule with them from right now, from now onwards. And the psychological aspect of the lockdown will be most on these young children, for whom outdoor play is a necessity. So we need to bond with them more. We need to plan games with them more. Make your home a work area, a jumping area, a bouncy area, an obstacle course, and engage the children more. Limit the outside food or the fast food coming into your house. And also the priority vaccines can go on, others can wait. Also, they shared about the HealFA app, on which we can easily do the self-check for ourselves, our family members, our children, to just to know, not to panic, but to be knowing, to be aware of, to handle our anxiety in a better way. And also they have that facility and an option where we can connect freely to the doctors at their board, so that they can answer any further queries which we get and we want them to be addressed. So feel free to download that app and connect to the doctors going further. Also, the Corona thing, let's take it, we are not in this alone. We are together in it as teachers, as parents, and we need to work together to handle it in a way which is beneficial for our children. And teachers who are participating in the session, our role is very, very important, because we know as parents, our children listen to the teachers more than what they listen to us as parents. So it will be our role doubling once we open and we are ready to take children back, that we need to encourage and inculcate the habits which will keep them safer in the longer duration. So on this note, I thank our eminent guests, Dr. J.V. Rao and Dr. Vijay Shekhar, for giving their valuable time from busy schedule during these times. I also thank Raj on pitching in to make this feasible from HEALFA, to make it possible and bring this session at home for our parents to put their anxiety on rest and to answer the queries what they have. So I thank all parents for joining in and sharing this session with us in an effort to jointly work together to make the area, to make the time safer for our children. We cannot eliminate, but let's maximize the safety and minimize the risk for our children and for ourselves. Thank you, parents. Thank you, doctors. Thank you, Raj. It was.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you. Thank you, Kirti.
Thank you so much.
To all the parents,
And to all
get
the
your
parents.
Amar Chitrakathas out, get your Enid Blyton, get your Nancy Drew, get your Harry Potter books out. It's a great time to connect to your children by reading the books that they connect with, by knowing the characters that they know about. I think it will be a great time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you
everyone.
all. Yeah. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.